What's up, guys? How's it going? We got a little Wednesday link action, a little bit earlier than normal, but we're still here. So, Thomas, how you doing?
Doing well. Figured we'd jump in now that because people are going to be busy on a Wednesday night, might be traveling on a Wednesday night with family before Thanksgiving. And so the Eagles are about to wrap up practice. They're basically almost done. And we have sound bites and news and everything we need to get ready for in terms of Baltimore coming up this Sunday, which is pretty crazy.
Yes, it is. You're right. I am super excited. We talked about it, and as you mentioned, we're going to get into all the specific details, info, people saying, yes, Smitty officially out for practice here, but it does feel like, in a way, a potential Super Bowl preview. Like, we don't overhype this thing, but at the same time, like, you look at Baltimore, you look at Philly,
a lot of hype.
where the teams are going. I mean, there are definitely some potentials for the Super Bowl. So I think everybody, interested to see that. Do you get the teams at full strength? Roquan Smith was back today for Baltimore. Good news for them, not necessarily for us. But for those people that are joining and curious and have not seen the official news, we will start, I guess, officially on that side so that people are up to date. Let me make sure I've got the screen official here. There you go. So Eagles injury updates. Shout out to Anthony DeBona, who kind of put it together from a couple different reports. But today's practice, DeVonta Smith, hamstring, obviously, Darius Slay with concussion, and then Keely Ringo, which was interesting. We're not participating today. So that is official. Josh Sweat is practicing, though. Good news, because we saw him leave briefly, return in the Eagles game. You never know sometimes with those types of injuries. But, I mean, without Smitty against Baltimore, it's not saying you can't win for sure. We're not saying that. But it's early in the week. Just not a great sign having Smitty and the hamstring injury. These things are always, they're fickle, man. Like, sometimes it's a quick return. Sometimes it's delayed. Thoughts on Smitty and I guess also with Slay potentially being out?
Yeah, we definitely won't know on Smitty until Friday, right? Friday is kind of always the final practice. If they don't practice on Friday, the odds of them actually playing in a regular season game, at least this year, are dramatically diminished. So not practicing today isn't the end of the world. But there was a report from the Inquirer's Jeff McClain, who was asked on Twitter, okay, if Smitty's not out there, what are his chances of practicing Friday and playing on Sunday? And he said, from what I've seen and what I've heard, he has a very tough stretch and a hard chance of actually playing on Sunday. So right now, I think we would go ahead and assume that DeVonta Smith is not going to play on Sunday for the second straight week. You think back to A.J. Brown missing a couple of weeks after his hamstring injury. Hamstrings they're a problem, right? They're one of the most annoying long-term injuries because they don't really have a fluid time frame. It could be a week, it could be 5 in terms of, what grade hamstring, how bad is it really, and all sorts of other rehab stuff that we obviously won't get into. But my guess is he won't play. It's kind of a bummer because this is not a very good secondary, at least at the cornerback spot. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton's a great safety for the Ravens, but the secondary is not that great, Josh. And so they haven't had a big passing game in a long time during the 7-game win streak, mainly due to the fact that Saquon's been so good. This could definitely be one, and without Smitty, it makes it a little bit harder.
It does, yes. To your point, it's like the Ravens having, I think it's what, the third or the second best run defense in the league. It fluctuates in a second. Okay. But depending on, what you're going in with, obviously Saquon, the big matchup, Roquan Smith probably is going to play since he's back at practice. Do the Ravens limit that? How much do they limit it? I don't think that they're going to go to the full extent, but they're going to game plan and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to let Philly beat us. That's their thought going in. Now, same thing for us. It's like, well, how do you shut down Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and their side of the ball? But when it comes to Philly without potentially DeVonta Smith, then, you go, okay, Jalen, this is one of those moments. This is a playoff game. This is going to be a playoff atmosphere.
Yep.
Big time game. There's not a whole lot of games going on Sunday since obviously we have Thanksgiving and Friday, Black Friday game, other early games as well. And then Philly as one of the 3 games in the later slate on Sunday. But, for people that are, and I've seen this a couple comments, I know you have, we've talked about this before, people want to hate on Jalen. It doesn't matter what he does. People will always hate on Jalen. But this feels like one of those games where if he goes out there and the Eagles win, he is definitely going to have to put his footprint on that, or his handprint on that, because what he has to do here with the potential of a lack of a dominating running game. I won't say a lack of a running game, but a dominating running game. I don't know you're going to run for 250 yards, right? Like that'd be great. It'd be phenomenal if you go in against Baltimore and you do that. But if let's say you run for 150 yards, then you got to have 250, 300 from Jalen potentially in the air. I know defense, yes, we can be the equalizer, but I'm interested to see because Jalen has done everything it takes to win. And sometimes people are like, well, he's not stretching the field. He's not throwing it down the field far enough and all these other things. But it's like, at the end of the day, he's not turned the ball over, and he's not putting it into dangerous, scary situations. So this is one of those games, though, he might have to, and I believe we might see a little bit more of those, I don't know, aggressive, dare we say aggressive throws perhaps from Jalen. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
He's definitely capable of doing all of that, right, Josh? My really question is going to be, who is the other receiver? Goddard barely got involved on Sunday night. Again, they only threw for like 180 yards. But besides A.J. Brown, Dotson is clearly not going to step up and take up that role. Britton Covey is not looked at. Johnny Wilson is more of a blocker. Will there be somebody else to take the load off? Because if I'm Baltimore, easier said than done, just double A.J. Brown in every passing situation and force Jalen Hurts to go somewhere else. And that would be the real question mark. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting.
Yes, certainly will. Real quickly, the super chat here from Muscletron. We appreciate that. The 2 says, y'all see Shaq Barrett's wife's response to a fan.
Come on.
I did.
Come on.
But it's not realistic. Like,
It's
you
not
can
real.
heart things all the time. We could get into the analysis of, what does that mean, right? Like somebody's hearting something on social media. He's not going to be coming to Philly. You wouldn't have seen, for one, Howie make all of the moves of KJ Henry and Charles Harris and like all these other practice squad additions if there was on top of that going to say, let's get Shaq Barrett over here. Plus, as both of us have talked about on our shows and within, I guess texting back and forth. But like Shaq Barrett, he's owned by Miami. They have his contract, so they would have to release that, and it's a whole mess. He's not going to be in Philly. We can put that one to bed. You got other guys.
Well, and the problem is that we don't know if that Instagram post of someone allegedly DMing Shaq Barrett's wife is actually true. We really
That's also another point, but
there's a brand new one today, right? Because there's a brand new one where she responds to the message and says, yes, he came out of retirement because of the Eagles and whatever. That is completely unverified. I tracked it down to the person who posted it on Twitter. He deleted it, which is kind of weird, and then reposted it. Doesn't have his DMs open, so you can't really ask him any questions. But the problem is, if you go to Shaq Barrett's wife's Instagram account and look at her IG, I guess, stories over the past couple of days, there's one of them which highlights an article saying, did Shaq Barrett's wife reveal who Shaq is going to play for? And she said, show me where I actually responded to someone's random DM, I'll wait, which is her saying she didn't do it. So it's not real. And again, just to walk people through, Shaq would have to, obviously, be released by the Dolphins, clear waivers of 30, probably 27 other teams, because Philadelphia's 28th, 29th in waivers right now.
Unlikely.
And then Eagles would have to claim him, or he goes all the way through waivers and then ignores Baltimore, his hometown, Tampa, who he played for and won a Super Bowl with, the Dolphins, who could have kept him in the first place, just to get to Philadelphia. It'd be quite the 8-step process to get there, and then they just go ahead and cut one of the pass rushers they signed yesterday. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen.
Yes. That's Michael says Barrett spotted at the airport. I know exactly what picture we're all talking about there.
Is it Barrett or Larry Fitzgerald? Which one is it?
You never know. It could be one of them. Whitebird Jakers with a 10. Appreciate that. Said awesome to catch you guys live at work. Thanks for the consistent, great content, fellas. Support from Northeastern Pennsylvania. There you go.
Sweet.
We appreciate that. Yes, thank you
How about
very
this
much.
super chat from him? I think it's him. He says, Howie needs to make a sales pitch to bring J.J. Watt or Aaron Donald out of retirement and join us. Worried Lions might get J.J., maybe Shady help get A.D. The same thing applies here, and I talked about this yesterday on my show. J.J. Watt, J.J. Watt would have to be back on the Houston Texans, and then he would have to be cut, and then he would have to clear waivers. And you're telling me that there isn't, 30 other teams in the NFL that'd love to put J.J. Watt on their roster just for the overall excitement factor. Same goes for Aaron Donald. None of them are coming out. We got to just move on from that. It's not going to happen. Unless Howie has somehow gotten an agreement from Shaq Barrett and the Dolphins and the Ravens and, the Bucks, it's just not going to happen. What we have is what we got, and that's what we need to focus on.
Absolutely. We certainly do. By the way, I do need to mention this as well. The official sponsor of my channel, Underdog. Use code Philly Special. There's not a better time right now in terms of getting on with Underdog because it's Feast Week. And I'll throw up the graphics here for people as well. It's Feast Week. They have automatic promos. There's profit boost, discount tokens, gimme picks, everything else. So again, make sure to use my code, link in the description, Philly Special, scan the QR code as well. Either way there, that gets you signed up. And like I said, there's not a better time. So therefore, I texted you, Thomas, to say like, hey, we should do some sort of collab on this because people, you got to make a couple picks. Eagles are not playing tomorrow, but you still sit around and eat some turkey and have a good time and maybe cheer on the tankathon, which direction we want that to go, perhaps. But you still had to have some picks. So I texted you that. We came together with a 4-pick extraordinaire. We'll call it that. But Thomas, you're feeling the Jordan Love over 20.5 completions and the Malik Neighbors anytime touchdown.
20.5 completions sounds easy for Jordan Love. I have him in fantasy. Part of the reason why I'm kind of willing this to happen.
Okay.
But 20.5 is not a lot. I get the weather in Green Bay is going to be a little interesting on Sunday night, but you're bringing a very cold, or I should say warm weather Dolphin team to the cold. I like that one. And then Drew Lock might at least make the Giant offense more interesting than DeVito or Daniel Jones did. And so Neighbors is due. He hadn't had a touchdown in a long time. And so those would be my contribution to our Thanksgiving platter here in terms of underdog picks.
There you go. I like it. Actually, whenever you texted, I like both of those. But the Malik Neighbors and the fact that he cried, basically, he was the diva, he wasn't necessarily wrong with the Giants' offense, but at the same time, like, you go out publicly with the New York media and make the comments that he did. It's like, all right, it's going to go one of two ways. One, he either does not have a good game at all, or he's going to have like a 3-touchdown game. So the anytime touchdown, I like that.
I like
paired it up. Also, my two were DJ Moore, over 4.5 receptions. Detroit's good.
Sounds easy.
But like passing-wise, if there's a weakness, they get beat by receivers at times. You know that Chicago's going to have to throw the football. They're going to try to keep up there. So I'm taking DJ Moore. I mean, even if it's a force feed, 5 receptions seems like a pretty obvious. And then Rico Dowdle, like that's an iffy one there. My thought is that screen passes and little dump-offs, Cooper Rush is not going to be throwing further down the field, and especially with a pass rush as it is. So, you throw out a little bone perhaps to Dallas and Rico Dowdle.
I like it. Feast week. I love it. Yeah, I did an underdog read yesterday for Feast week. So it's the best time to try it. It's been really fun. I mean, again, we both have sponsorships with them, but I've honestly first time doing it this year, and it's been pretty fun. Yeah, $10 here and there, nice and easy.
Not too bad, and it's a 14 times multiplier if you just copy and paste the entry that Thomas and I have there, or you could add in some extras, take a little bit off.
Sure.
Not too bad, but again, shout out to Underdog, appreciate them. Scan the QR code, use code Philly Special, and there you go. So. I guess speaking of Feast Week, we had a question earlier, just a quick second, because it is obviously Thanksgiving tomorrow. Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving platter, Thanksgiving dish?
I think Thanksgiving food is completely overrated, although a good stuffing is pretty good. But so many stuffings are basically dog food, right? So you have to have a really good stuffing. If it's box stuffing, it's not homemade stuffing, it is literally worse than dog food. But overall, most turkeys are dry. Let's just be honest. Ham is a little bit overrated. Pies are pretty good. I'm not a big dessert guy. I don't know. I'd rather just have a big steak, right? Maybe some mashed. I think mashed potatoes is hard to mess up. Mashed potatoes is pretty good.
That's
big
true.
Steak, piece of bread, mashed potatoes, nice and simple. But I would go with a nice, aka my mother's stuffing. I think it's pretty good. But I've had a lot of stuffings, and most are pretty trash.
But it's fair. It's always dangerous when you show up to the potluck situation, because you're like, hey, so and so is going to make that. So and so is going to make
potluck stuffings. All
it's
stink.
Like
they're not. They're never good.
There's hardly ever anything good coming from that. But if you get mom's food, then you know what you're getting. But I would agree with most of that. That to me, it depends again on who's making it and prepping it. Turkey can be good. You can fry the turkey. I know we're going to do that this year, so we'll see how that turns out. But shout out to my twin brother. He's going to give a go. I've not had that before from his own personal frying.
It's better than baked turkey,
we'll
that's for sure. At least got a little more flavor to it, but just don't burn your house down. That's the fear there. So
yes, no one do that. Everyone stay safe. Josh B saying stop cooking the turkey wrong. Let's see, what's spatchcock? I don't know what that is. And dry brine. I don't know.
Idea what that is.
I don't know what.
Maybe it fixes it.
I'm sure that's some sort of way to cook it that we should be. But anyway. It's awesome. It's Thanksgiving week. It feels so much different. We've texted about this, but it feels so much different now versus rewind a year ago at this time.
Yeah.
And we were going, oh my gosh, this is a very dangerous, not great position to be in, And whenever I go to family get-togethers, especially around Thanksgiving, a lot of Cowboys fans, the Cowboys game's going to be on during Thanksgiving. But it will be a very different one for me, because last year was like, oh, what's going on with the Eagles? You guys are struggling. We're going to catch you. We're going to win the division. We're going to take care of business here. Whereas this year, it'll be great. I could be like, honestly, I probably won't get a question about it. It'll probably be just silence. I'll have to bring it up.
Probably not.
But what this team's doing is phenomenal. Now, it's, again, a big game coming up. And as we say, it's good to have Josh Sweat back. But curious on the recent moves, again, we've talked about it in our past videos, but the recent moves of KJ Henry, Charles Harris, overall pass rush situation. I asked the question on my live stream last night, like concern levels 1 to 10. Where would you say you fall within that based on the move so far?
Yeah, listen, the BG move is obviously a big one just due to the fact that he was playing very well. We take the emotion out of it. He was doing a really good job, and not just in run stopping, probably your best run stopping defensive end. At least that's like guaranteed. And then obviously 3.5 sacks. The interesting thing that I found is that they didn't immediately take Teron Jackson and make him active, put him on the 53-man roster. Mm-hmm. They very clearly want to see what KJ Henry and Charles Harris look like in practice. And they were both out there today, and then decide who gets activated. Maybe they all kind of just elevate up for a couple of games, then come back down. Howie is very clearly still fishing out there and trying just to find out what happens. And I think that in the end, we all have to realize that despite the fact that both Harris and Henry are younger players, one of which was drafted a lot higher than the other, both of them have had sacks up with multiple teams, they're very much last resort type situations. All you're going to see right now, especially against Baltimore with neither of these new additions at any sort of practice time besides today, tomorrow, and Friday, is going to be a lot more Nolan Smith. It's going to be a lot more 5-man fronts. I think Milton Williams, along with Jordan Davis, could be a real option, and they can run Milton on the outside. He's having a career year right now. Mm-hmm. And then I do think Jalen Hunt mixes in. At 38%, or was it 15 snaps against the Rams? That goes up to 25 very quickly, and you bump Nolan Smith's reps up as well, and that's what they're going to roll with. And again, we've mentioned this, Josh. The secondary solves a lot of problems in terms of your pass rush. It helps out a lot on that front four because it gives them a lot less leeway, right? Normally, if the secondary was bad, you would need a 77-sack football team in 2022 to really kind of make up for the lackluster play on the backside. It's not the case this year. The real question this week is going to be the run-stopping ability of these defensive ends. And can they get hands-on, make open field tackles, and bring down Derrick Henry? Because we saw, especially early on against the Rams, Kyren Williams had a couple of really nice drives before they kind of figured things out and settled down. And so Henry is a completely different animal. You'd like to think that the fact that they've been practicing against Saquon Barkley since April of this past spring, that they'd be good to go against backs. But Henry is a different animal than Philadelphia has seen. It could cause a real problem for a BG-less Eagle defensive line.
There we go. Yeah. I'm very curious to see. Again, we talk about the difference of snaps. I'm going to get to a couple of these super chats here in a second. On the topic, though, of edge rushers, who's going to play where, potential snap count, everything else. In case you did not hear it, I've got the sound bites from the Fangio press conference. So we'll play that here and then continue a little bit more of the thoughts and get to the super chats. So here's Fangio on the multitude of different edge options and what you might see.
Play versatile roles for you in this defense. Does Brandon's injury change anything with the way you would use Vaughn?
Not really. I don't want to, weaken another position. If you can not make too many changes for one guy missing, that's better.
Are you comfortable with Josh seeing an expanded workload, or do you worry that it could be too heavy to sweat?
No, I see his workload pretty much staying the same that it's been.
With Alex, his is going to have to increase. Do you think he's ready for that?
We'll find out.
What have you seen from him behind the scenes, though, Felix?
He's been getting better. He hurt his ankle 2 weeks ago against Washington. He wasn't fully healthy last week. I mean, he's healthy enough to play, but hopefully he'll be better this week because, we'll need him to step up.
You've spoken about Nolan Smith in the setting a few times. Is this the role you expected for him this year? Has he exceeded expectations? How would you characterize that?
I didn't know what my expectations were because he really didn't play a lot last year. But I do think he's played well, and a credit to him that he's kept improving too.
Could he play more snaps?
Yeah, probably a little bit more, for sure.
Did Milton Williams slide out to the edge? Does Milton Williams have that skill set to go outside?
He could. Not a steady diet, though.
Would Jordan Davis begin more snaps if you would move Milton to the outside?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he can organically get more snaps this week just because, there's probably a better chance we'll be playing some base defense this week.
There you go.
What a surprise.
Chance for
a little more
base defense. Yeah.
A little more Jordan Davis this week and what's going to be a run-heavy scheme. Yeah. Not a lot of surprises there, Josh. I think everything that he said makes sense. How much more of an uptick in terms of reps? Are you going to move Zach Bond to edge rusher. I saw that a lot in my comment section, just due to the fact that that's basically what we thought he was going to be, and you don't want to weaken that position, right? Zach Bond it's not like Zach Bond is the 30th best linebacker in the National Football League. He's like a top 4 linebacker, top 2 linebacker right now. And so don't make another position group weaker and then have to have him change what he wants to do. And Zach Bond, if he was asked to do that, should refuse, because he's going to make a lot of money this offseason as either an Eagle or elsewhere as an actual linebacker. So not a big surprise there. I think you're going to see a lot more Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and Jalen Carter fronts, a lot more 5-man fronts this week, but that's more of a result of the actual opponent you're facing and not necessarily what, the Eagles are trying to do to circumnavigate the whole issue with Brandon Graham.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. There's going to be, in little, small sample sizes, sure, we might get an adjustment for Zach Bond. I played this clip, I think on the last night as well, but what you're talking about for Bond, his ability, you see it here. I mean, he's lined up as linebacker, then he kicks Josh Sweat inside, and then he's listed there, or kind of moves into the edge position. It works out great, but again, this is a one-off. You're not saying, oh, hey, let's just move Zach Bond, as you're talking about, to the edge, because you have him as such a good playmaker that he is. It just makes absolutely zero sense. So, yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I'm curious to see, because again, it's not like a Charles Harris, not like a KJ Henry's automatic. Oh my gosh, the pass rush just got better. No one's saying that, but I am curious in the sense of, these are guys that are Vic Fangio guys. Like, you look at the prototypical edge pass rusher or edge player that Fangio wants on his defense. I mean, he wants a 6'4", 250, 260-pound guy over there on the edge who can move and has some versatility. And, we've knocked at times, or saying like, well, hey, Nolan did put on some more weight, got up to 245, but people saying he's a little bit slighter, and Fangio even has said flat out that he's like, yeah, he's a little bit undersized. He needs to get a little bit bigger, needs to play stronger, and then he's transitioned and been that. But you look at the moves whenever you did need to make it, and BG goes down. I mean, it's automatically obvious that Howie goes to Fangio and says, who do we need? Who do we want? And out of the options, not great, incredible options, of course, at this point of the season, but out of those options, he goes, yep, give me a 6'4", 250-pound guy. Give me a 6'3", 250-pound guy. And we're going to roll with it and see what they do. So rotationally, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to see, immediately, we probably won't see it for the first definitely week or two with these guys, because you're going to ramp up to speed. But does Teron Jackson, because he's been playing a lot of scout team, as you said earlier, I would very much expect him to get elevated for the game on Sunday. And then you see, but ultimately, this week, as Fangio said, base defense, it's going to be different than a lot of other games, because you've got the Lamar Jackson factor. And so, traditionally, you might say, let's beef up the line, but it's difficult. It's a double-edged sword, because you do that for Derrick Henry, and then Lamar Jackson beats you with the speed. So I'll be curious. I would be shocked if Nolan Smith does not play a career high in snaps on this game. I'll just say that, because we saw him play a lot against Jaden Daniels and his ability to run. Lamar Jackson, though, is a completely different animal. And so what he's going to try to do in Fangio's scheme, it's going to be fascinating. Are you concerned? Again, I'm going to get to the super chat, so people that I see in the comments there, I'm going to get to those. Are you concerned with Lamar Jackson and the track record or history for Vic Fangio? Because I've seen a couple comments of that in my show.
Yeah, you just wonder if Philadelphia's defense, having played against Jalen Hurts all, training camp long, and really for the past couple of years, but this unit has played against Jalen Hurts for a while now, that they would be at least a little bit better equipped, right? And I think that the idea of Bond and Dean being a little more speed linebackers than kind of more physical linebackers that you typically see in the National Football League might help as well. They got to do a big job spying. Cooper DeJean, open field tackling ability is also something interesting here. Imagine him one-on-one versus Lamar versus Devontae Maddox, right? Lamar's tough, and Lamar's record versus NFC opponents is always, way up there as like one loss, because it's so rare that NFC teams actually play Lamar Jackson. So I think this is going to be a very difficult game. And this was always a game, Josh, if you asked Eagle fans before the season, hey, where are the L's on this schedule, right? Coming back from LA, cross-country flight, immediately turn around Thanksgiving week and take on Lamar Jackson. We all said, I think all of us were like, we're losing this game. So now that the Eagles are 9-2 and they've won 7 in a row, our confidence is way higher, and we obviously this defense is way better than we thought it would be before the start of the season. But I think it's going to be a tough matchup. And the real question is going to be, can the Eagle offense go tit for tat, right? Can they score enough to keep up and make that sure that the pressure stays on Lamar Jackson? Because Jackson has had moments, Josh, where he hasn't looked that great. And a couple of drives against the Chargers last Monday night was like, ooh, there's a reason Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley are overtaking him for MVP because he has not had a great month of November. And so I do think that there are opportunities there, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, he will give you moments. You're right. There's going to be moments, and he will give you those during the game of maybe an errant throw, maybe a little bit of mistake, hopefully a turnover, and you capitalize on that. But if Philly cannot do that, then that's where a little bit of concern comes in. But I'll admit the exact same thing. When we were going through the schedule predictions of are the Eagles going to win, are they going to lose a game in Baltimore late in the year? No, I did not have the confidence. Now, that was before the season, so things flipped around now, and what we've seen from this Eagles team, I believe that we can win, and I will predict us to win, but it's going to be a very difficult game. And so, as we go into it, I'm not – yes, it was the 56 to whatever it was, 17 beatdown for Miami late in the year last year when Baltimore played them. It's so – I understand comparisons, and I understand people being like, but he's got a really good – but it's so different because of the entirely different roster, the playmakers that you have on the different squads, the way that Miami plays football, even offensively, because they're fast paced, and if they get stopped, it just snowballs because the defense has to naturally play a whole lot more snaps, and they get tired, and it goes downhill. Plus, by that point in the season, a lot of the Miami players didn't want to play for Fangio. Like they were still going to make the playoffs, and they did, but they did not want to play for Fangio. Like they were at odds already. It got leaked afterward. It was they couldn't stand his guts and all this other stuff. That kick rocks whenever he left. But this is a different team. This is a Eagles defense that's bought into what Fangio's doing, and they appreciate that old school mentality that he's brought into it. So. Again, understand some of those back and forth, but I will say that we win. That's what I'm going with. Kamali here with a 2 said went to the LA game, left ordering a Saquon jersey. So see, that's one of the reasons, obviously, with Saquon. But if you see Saquon in person, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it was for you. I'm assuming it was. For me, it was the first time to see Saquon in person, the Thursday night game against Washington. It's one thing to watch him on TV. It's another thing to see in person. We've seen him in person before, but to play a game, you have to. I mean, it's like, especially a game like that, you have to order a Saquon jersey. But what he's doing is just unreal.
I totally agree. I want one. It might be my next one. I don't know. I haven't decided what my next jersey is going to be. I'm very stuck on my DeVonta Smith jersey. I think Q or DeJean would be a really good one as well because they're playing so well. And they're going to be factors in this one too, Josh. I mean, think about Zay Flowers has been kind of the only real weapon that Lamar Jackson has used this season. There's been a little bit of Nelson Aguilar, a little bit of Rashad Bateman. Mark Andrews has come alive the past couple of weeks, really the past month. But it's Flowers, and I think that you're going to see, the clamps be put on. Overall, it was only one catch for Puka, one catch for Cooper against Quinion, and it made a massive difference in the second half when the Rams had to throw their way out of that game, and they weren't able to. And so I like the chances. I do think that if they were to lose this game, Philly's fine, and especially with the remaining of the remaining schedule. Carolina the next week, then the Steelers, then obviously Dallas and the Giants. They're going to be okay. The big question right now happens tomorrow in that 1 o'clock slot or noon slot down in Detroit. Can the Bears pull off an upset, and where will the Lions' next loss come from? Because right now, Detroit has that 1-game lead in the loss column for the 1 seed, and as we get closer to the playoffs, we'll talk about it more, but making teams come to Philadelphia is going to be a critical part of the Eagles' quest to get back to a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. We said it before. I was talking earlier with a buddy of mine and saying, look, it feels like, not to get ahead of ourselves, but just realistically looking at it, it feels like the NFC is a collision course for Detroit and Philly. And right now, it could totally change as we get close, but right now it does feel like the difference maker is who has home field advantage. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a crazy good game, but whoever has that home field advantage, it probably gives a little bit of that advantage.
I think so.
Just enough to help them get over the top. But Tyler with a 10, appreciate that. Said just got off and tuned in. There you go. Got off.
There you go.
Said thoughts on Vic saying Keeley is close to being ready, but sticking with Rodgers. I did see that.
I think that they like that they like Rodgers regardless of Keeley being healthy. And Keeley has been healthy this season, and I know ready kind of means ready to play cornerback, but I think they like Isaiah Rodgers, and Isaiah Rodgers has played very good football. I mean, the real flaw of Isaiah Rodgers last week was that pass interference that eventually gave up a Rams touchdown, but it wasn't pass interference. It was really good coverage on Nakua, and he had the forced fumble early on whenever Slay got knocked out. So Rodgers has been fantastic, and I would not mess up the flow of, Rodgers is like automatically playing for Slay every single game because Slay checks out with some sort of injury each and every week, unfortunately, and so I wouldn't mess up the swagger. Slay's clearly not going to be, with the Eagles this next year, and so whether they want to keep Ringo or keep Rodgers or keep both, I think they would keep both, but we'll see. But I would definitely still be playing Isaiah Rodgers right now.
It would be cool also if Zay gets to play this week in Baltimore. Not that Deontay Johnson has done anything, because I have him in fantasy and I was like, oh, hey, maybe the numbers are going to get better. And it's been just fall off a cliff. He was actually doing really well considering in Carolina, and he's done nothing. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's related to Deontay Johnson. Either that or he's really good friends. I believe they're cousins, right? So I think there's a relation there. But he was talking about beforehand. I was like, hey, what matchup are you looking forward to if you could pick? And he said Deontay Johnson at the beginning of the season. So, again, a little bit of a difference with him playing well in Carolina and basically being forgotten in Baltimore. But I don't know. You never know. With Slay potentially being out, concussion protocol, it feels unlikely. I mean, everyone, I think, remembers the shot that he took from the tight end on the sideline that did knock him out of the game.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but this part of the week, still not even practicing. You got to pass all of the different sections of the concussion protocol to be back. It's leaning towards, I would imagine, that you got Isaiah Rodgers and Quinyon Mitchell on the outside. So we shall see. Philly Domino 2 said the mustache will win. Thank you for that.
It's been pretty good. Can you imagine riding that on the win streak all the way to the Super Bowl? That'd be crazy.
It would be crazy. Yes. I don't know how much longer, but like it was one of those fabs. Like wife was not so much for it, and then for a very brief amount of time, it was like I kind of like. And now it's like I don't know if it's played its way out, but at this point, because she even asked, she's like, "Are you going to wear it to Thanksgiving?" And I had a couple other people, and I was like, I mean, yeah, like I have to.
Obviously.
Like it's not being shaved off now.
Obviously,
so the win streak, it carries on. But it would be wild because like how many wins are we talking about? We've already got 7.
7.
You'd have what? You'd have another
8, 9, 10, 11,
10,
12, right?
Yeah.
13, 14, and then 15 for the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
15. And 15 more?
Depending on if you get a bye week because the 1 seed or whatever. But yeah.
Sure.
It's a long time of having a stash. I've never had a stash in my life before this, so for what that's worth. But
Sir Jam / Eagle Nation said, I'm getting in the chat. Is Smitty still out? Yeah, he was not there, or he was at practice, but not in pads. He did not practice today. And it's looking like he's a long shot, is what some of the Eagle beat writers in the building are saying. So let that be known that he is a long shot to actually go ahead and make it. And I don't think he does, right? And it's the part of the season where you don't have a bye week because of the early bye. You don't want to push and make it worse, and then he misses more time. If you had to sit him for the next 3 weeks, and he comes back versus either the Steelers or the Cowboys the following week, or the Giants for one more week before the actual start of the playoffs, that's all fine, right? They're gonna be okay without him. They're just way more deadly when Smitty is in the lineup. You think back to like the Bengal game, right? Not a lot from AJ Brown, kind of a quiet day from him, and then Smitty hits a couple of home runs, and obviously it makes a big difference. So gotta like that. And I think that he's going to be back, I would guess, 2 weeks from, or the week after this week. But I don't think he plays on Sunday.
Yeah. Don't risk it. Don't risk it. But if you're looking for a play, then, A.J. Brown is always a good one. But especially for this game that you're going to probably lean on the passing game a little bit more. Wouldn't be the worst thing for A.J. Brown over yards, potentially touchdown, whatever that's at. Looky there, we got a Chiefs fan in the chat. How about those Chiefs? Says Eagles rolling right now. Thank you, sir. That takes a lot for him to admit that, because usually we don't get a whole lot of compliments on that side.
Yeah.
But,
I wonder if Volk Cole from How About Those Chiefs has come to the realization that he is a fan of the 2024 version, or the 2024 Chiefs, which are a version of the 2023 Eagles, right? Because they are the exact same team. The Chiefs are not a really good football team right now. They have a good defense, and they have Patrick Mahomes. They've been bailed out of so many games this year. It took them, Mahomes jogging down the sideline to beat the Carolina Panthers last week, although Bryce Young did look better. But if I was a Chiefs fan, man, I know that there's, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and we all respect them, and they can go on a run, but I would be terrified of this football team, especially if they somehow do not get the 1 seed, which they probably won't. go to Buffalo, go to Baltimore, whatever it is. If you offered me a bet, Chiefs or the AFC, Chiefs versus the field, I would put all the money on the field right now to get the Super Bowl. But that's just me.
There you go. I'm curious. He
He'll
may
never admit
still
that.
be in the chat, or he
He's
might
not.
have left.
There's no
So
way.
we'll see. But yeah, it's always a scary thing to bet against the Chiefs naturally, like in the playoffs.
It
We've
is.
seen so many different times.
Sure.
But you're right. You start seeing some of these. They've been decimated by injuries too. But there's a little bit more there. So David Turn with a 5. Appreciate that, Dave. Says lots of focus on the Ravens O versus the Eagles D, but what is your take on the Eagles O versus the Ravens D? Awesome show as always. Thank you for what you do. Go Birds.
I think it's a favorable matchup. Now, again, the Ravens defense is number 2 in the league in terms of run defense. And so there has not been a running back go for more than 88 yards against the Baltimore Ravens this season. That was Chase Brown, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago with Cincinnati. So you would like to think that Saquon gets to 88. Last time I checked, the underdog higher or lower is 92, 93, whatever it was for Saquon, which is a big number. But and they're going to sell out for him. And so I think it'll be one of those quieter Saquon Barkley games. Now, does that mean he goes for 100 yards and a touchdown? Yes, that probably does. I mean, quiet for him is 100 and a touchdown versus 150 and 2 touchdowns. But I think they're going to have to throw their way around this. I think that Dallas Goedert needs to have a big day, and it's going to be a receiver versus cornerback matchup in terms of Philadelphia be able to take the advantage. That's where you really can attack this Baltimore Raven defense is their 2 cornerbacks, because everywhere else, especially if Roquan Smith plays, Kyle Hamilton's at safety, and then of course they have good edge rushers. Kyle Van Noy is like an ageless wonder. They're pretty good everywhere else.
Yeah, and I'll be curious as well. Like Marlon Humphrey has had actually surprising ratings based on grading for games, but when you talk about pass interference, like, just watch how this game is officiated, because he grabs and pulls, and there's pass interference on basically every single play, and they let him get away with it a lot. Like, kudos to him for playing physical. But if it's a ticky-tack referee calling there, then it's going to probably benefit Philly. If it's not, then he's going to probably get away with murder of trying to. You can't slow down A.J. Brown. But I was watching the game against the Chargers, and I was like, man, there's at least 4 or 5 calls that they could have made there. And they're just like, nope, it's good play being made.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thought, though, that you bring up of Dallas Goedert, because, you also look at areas to exploit for Baltimore, and they have allowed some bigger games from tight ends. So, Will Dissly getting in some action there. Does Kellen Moore scheme that up? I'm just shocked sometimes of how little Dallas Goedert gets involved. And, I know the injury early in the season, yes, there was the Saints game, but you were already losing A.J. Brown, so it's a difference there. I don't know if it's the fact that, like, when A.J.'s out, there's more of an emphasis of spreading, but when AJ's there, it's like, and you absolutely should run the passing game through AJ Brown, but I don't know if it's a scheme thing or if it's he was not necessarily getting open based on, watching the film and the breakdowns there. It seemed like a little bit of both, but this does feel like one of those games where you got to get Dallas Goedert. I mean, he needs to have 4 or 5 catches, 60 or 70 yards, possibly a touchdown there, because, again, if you're the Ravens, if you're John Harbaugh, you've gone into this already saying Philly will not beat us with Saquon Barkley, and Philly will do as little as they can with A.J. Brown. Those are the 2 automatic playmakers, and again, I know it's easier said than done because we could do the back and forth of, yes, teams say that every single game, but Baltimore and the way their defense plays are going to try to shift that. So I like that. Yeah, DG maybe taking advantage of some of the less focus, less attention, could get something there.
People asking what the line is. I believe it started out as Eagles plus 2.5, so Baltimore obviously getting the edge there. It might have moved to 3, I think
it's 3 in most places,
3 most places now, okay, which, normally you get about 3 in terms of if you're, traveling on the road. So that means that it's pretty even in terms of the odds right there, but obviously Baltimore at home does make a difference, and it's the game of the week. I mean, it really is in terms of everything that you look at. The CBS number 1 guys are there, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. The afternoon game, wrapping up Thanksgiving week. It's going to be Hurts versus Jackson, and then of course the running back battle. It's a big one. I'm very excited to see what this team looks like, because we all said that this was the most complete offensive game for Philadelphia, looking back at the Rams, because they were so red hot early and they still kick field goals, but still they were moving the football well. If that continues and if this team gets a lead at all, it's scary. It's scary to try and come back against the defense, and obviously with Saquon hitting home runs in the fourth quarter.
You're right, because both of these teams are built in a very similar way. Like, if the Ravens get up, it's very difficult to beat the Ravens. If the Eagles get up, very difficult to beat the Eagles. But you flip the sides there and say neither of these teams, and, again, I guess it's for everyone, they play better being up, but, like, the way they're built with the run game and the pass rush and the way those defenses play, please start fast. I mean, I know that that's like a plea every single week, but Philly, get out early, score a touchdown, take the lead, take the momentum from the crowd, and show out there. It'll be interesting. Tyler brings up a good point. Special teams as well. Says Britton Covey versus Coop as a primary punt returner. Thoughts on that?
That's been Covey. I mean, it was all Covey, right, in the Rams game. So that seems to be pretty much solved, and it makes sense because they like Covey on offense. They like him, obviously, at punt returner, and they don't want Cooper getting hurt or running too much whenever he obviously comes off the field for defense and right back on for a punt return. So it'll be Covey for the remainder of the year.
Yep. And hopefully we get a bigger punt return. Special teams could also be that side that's the difference maker.
Yeah.
We haven't seen since probably. I mean, Coop had the big return. Was it Dallas? I think Coop had the big return there. But since the Cleveland game, which I guess it's for a lot of it, but since the Cleveland game, special teams, we haven't really talked about it, and that's a good thing, I suppose. Like nothing incredible, but nothing bad. So I don't know. Do you make a play here? Get a punt return for a touchdown? Get a block
I don't know
kick?
if I
Could we get something?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not going to bet it, but like just a little extra contribution from special teams.
I would
that
like
would be
Quinion
nice.
Mitchell or Cooper DeJean interception, but I think how many picks does Lamar Jackson have this year? It's less than 5. So he is not throwing a lot of really bad passes that are interceptable or have been intercepted. And so I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I would focus more on, AJ catches or Dotson catches or my Gainwell 13.5 rushing yards that I always try to hit because that's basically a guarantee. So
that's the guarantee.
It's fun, man. I'm excited. I think for my score prediction, we can get into that, is going to be probably lower. Maybe 24-21. Haven't had a lot of those so far this year.
Okay.
Philly wins it just because I don't want to jinx the win or call out the 7-game win streak. But I think I'm 24-21 right now.
Okay, I like that with a 3-point spread, but flipped obviously with Philly winning it. Yeah, I'm probably about in that same territory. The total, I was making sure that I had the updated. It's 47.5. So
okay,
yeah, I mean, I probably would take. It's weird because you go back and forth. You see the Bengals games, like, oh man, they put up crazy points against Baltimore, but divisional games are weird. So yeah, I probably lean towards the under as well. I would take I'll say 24-20. I'm about the same spot. I'll take a 1-point difference. That feels right. I don't think that either team is putting up a 30 spot. Heck, if someone does, then we'll just say first one to 30 absolutely wins this ball game. But I think with the defenses running the football, it's probably going to be a shortened game, an abbreviated game that flies by because of, even though runs may be stopped, neither team is going to give up on it. So, shortened game. I'll go 24-20. I think that the Eagles pull it out. Jalen has a good one.
I like it.
No turnovers as well. Let's say that 7 of 8 games of not a turnover for Jalen wouldn't be bad.
I think it's been pretty good. I'll say yes.
Okay. All right. Garrett here with a 5 said Smith has been an absolute stud, but every time I see him get hit, I hold my breath a little. His size has always been worrying.
That's not been a problem at all.
That's the stereotype.
And he's got a
though,
hamstring,
Smitty,
right? Yeah. It's not like he has a concussion or something like that. Although I guess he did earlier, but no, he's been very healthy except for this season, and it was a cheap shot and now a hamstring. So no, I'm not worried at all. Not worried at all.
Up until the cheap shot, yes, there's a hamstring, but like up until the cheap shot, he had not missed basically any games. He could have played last year when he had the injury.
Right.
You try to keep him healthy for the playoff game, but he said he could have gone. So I get it. I mean, Garrett's thoughts are a lot of people's thoughts ever since he was drafted and even being here in Philly, because you do see him and there is some concern, but like we've seen it, I think, more than enough now to go, like, when he takes a hit, it's not the hit that's going to get him injured. We've had now a hamstring thing that's a fluke deal, and hopefully he can get over in a week or less. I mean, if we see him playing on Sunday, that'd be phenomenal. But again, they're not going to rush it, I don't think. So, man, what a game, though. If the Eagles win, I'm seeing some of the other predictions, Ryan with the 28-23 for the Eagles.
Okay.
If they can win this game, we talked about it. I get the schedule officially up here, but you brought up the point of, first and foremost, the way that this Thanksgiving week goes perfectly is Detroit loses, and then the Eagles take care of business in Baltimore. Because if that happens, we're talking about a drastic shift in the odds, the percentage chance to win out or to win the NFC, to have home field advantage. It's hard, but it's not
fun.
impossible.
It's been the deciding factor in the Eagles going to the Super Bowl, right? They have needed to be the 1 seed in 2017 and 2022. So it makes it so much. One less game against a playoff caliber football team is unbelievable. And I saw people today arguing that they'd rather have a 2 seed, the way they get an easier first-round matchup and send a harder matchup to Detroit, which was just like 40 chess. Like, well, let's just not be crazy or anything here. So, 1 seed is critical, but they could still
most
be
likely,
the 2. Go ahead. Yeah.
What I was going to say is most likely if you're the 1 seed, then you're going to be playing Green Bay. As things are, it's going to totally shift. But like if you looked at it today, then most likely with Green Bay being the 6 seed, I can't imagine they're going to lose. Like Green Bay's playing really well, so even though they might be on the road, they're going to win. And then you do, as the 1 seed, obviously get the lowest seed. So you're probably looking at playing a Green Bay team, and it's a fair point. Like, maybe that is the more potential difficult team, but I'm totally with you as well. Give me a bye week for guys to get healthy, guys to be ready to go. You're hosting one game. I mean, we were there at the NFC Championship game against the Niners. There's something special and a different feeling of going like, man, we are hosting this thing, and if we win this, then it's just one more game away from the Super Bowl, like, or for the divisional, obviously, but then, to be the NFC Championship game. But, I don't know. I've seen a couple of those takes. I quite honestly, I don't understand them at all, because why are we talking about like, let's do 2 seed? What? Like, if we get 2 seed, sure, I'll hop on the like optimism, the silver lining for it. But no, never in a million years am I saying, let's not win the conference, because that's better somehow.
Knee Trap saying, is there a world where the Vikings get the 1 seed? Sure. Yeah, they got to win a lot, and the Lions schedule, the final 5 is pretty tough, but I'd say unlikely. Detroit's pretty hot right now, so I would say unlikely.
Yep. Philly Down with a 5 says, "Got to go. Hope you and your families have a great Thanksgiving. Go Birds." Thank you for that.
We're basically in the same boat. Everyone's got things to do on Wednesday night right before Thanksgiving, huh?
Yep.
Josh has family pictures in a little bit.
Pray for me, please. A 3-year-old and a 10-month-old.
Awesome.
And trying to make something work there. So my
Jealous.
wife, Sandy's the MVP. My wife is the MVP, but
she is.
Whew, yeah, pray for us. This is hopefully goes smoothly. Sometimes it's perfect, but then other times I'm sure that as parents can attest.
Look up, baby. Smile, baby. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
See if we can make that happen. But Riley here at the buzzer, appreciate the 2, said, remember me from my profile pic. And there you go. Heck yeah. Got the picture of both of us there, taking the selfie from the softball game.
Oh, yeah, from the softball game. I was thinking back to when we were there on Thursday. Yep. What's up, man?
How's it going? Appreciate you hanging out. Little early Wednesday link. But yeah, I think that'll wrap it. Anything else? We covered, obviously, the news and official details, everything else like that. But
we'll be keeping an eye on the news. Obviously, we are able to jump on, during the next couple of days, even with it being the holiday. Philadelphia magically signed Shaq Barrett, which won't happen. But, we're on standby and keeping an eye on stuff. And so make sure that you guys follow and subscribe. And yes, to my mother, who just joined in, is very upset that Tony Romo is calling the game. He is, unfortunately. So she can't stand listening to him, and that is who's calling the game on Sunday. So if you're going to join us on Sunday and not listen to us instead of listening to Romo, then there's your pitch to do it, because my mother would rather do that. She has no bias in it at all, and maybe other people do as well. So there you go.
We appreciate that, yes. And Jargy right here also just mentioning Carlton Davis is out for Detroit, as is Taylor Decker. So there's a chance.
Hey,
pull for the Bears.
Chicago, you never know.
Chicago.
Get hot.
Maybe.
Thanksgiving games can always be weird. You honestly can never count a team out. And it's a pretty good slate, I think. It's a lot better than people are giving it credit. So
yes. Green Bay did beat the Lions last year, if I'm not mistaken, on Thanksgiving. So we'll see. Hopefully another loss for the Lions. I'll take a loss for the Cowboys as well. Get the Giants dub. Ruin Jerry's party, and then what's the nightcap? I'm drawing a blank here. Is that the
Detroit
and
Miami? Or sorry, Packers and Dolphins.
That's the Packers and Dolphins. I'll take the Pack. I got to.
There you go.
A household here. So
there you go.
Anyway, appreciate you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. Crazy giveaways, and as Thomas mentioned, we will be streaming live for the game on Sunday. So come hang out then, and y'all have a great Thanksgiving. We appreciate all the support, prayers, safety, any traveling there. Have a great time, and you know what it is. We'll see you next time. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Happy Thanksgiving.